next speaker, please join me in welcoming Karolina. Now, she's a leadership expert who empowers others to develop presence and to maximize performance. As a certified coach from the prestigious NeuroLeadership Institute, Karolina brings a deep understanding of neuroscience to her work with leaders. Her expertise has been sought after by Fortune 500 companies across the APAC region for leadership development initiatives. Karolina is a professional member of the Association for Talent Development and Asia Professional Speakers Singapore. When she's not coaching leaders, you can find Karolina hitting the dance floor as a self-proclaimed dancing queen. We're going to play a little ABBA for her so that she can show you how she does it, okay, right after her presentation. Another one of her passions, or cooking her favorite foods as a home chef. Today, Karolina will share insights on how to harness one of the most powerful human emotions and turn your fear into fire. Please welcome Karolina.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Fireful introduction. Thank you. Full of fire.
Full of fire. Okay.
All right. Are we ready? Are we ready? Yes. Yeah. Is the audience online ready? Are we ready to tackle some fear? So let's get started. Irene, are we ready? Yeah, not so far. Let's start from the slide number 1. Okay, we are nearly ready, but we can get started. So please raise your hand if fear has ever stopped you. Look around. It's everyone in the room. Fear doesn't discriminate. Fear is universal. It's very powerful. We all sometimes have the moments where fear is taking over. So what can we do about it? Knowing that we have this emotion that might control your life and might control your decisions, the best you can do is try to face it and overcome it. Find a way to deal with it. So let's go back to 2004. Back then, I relocated to a new country, and I was just about to start my corporate career. It was an exciting moment, but it was also terrifying. Shortly after relocating, I realized that I was surrounded mostly by native English speakers. And very shortly, I became very self-conscious. I realized I was so scared of saying something that would sound like I'm less intelligent than my other colleagues. I also was fearing that my thick Polish accent would sound funny to some people, which sometimes did. So at that time, fear was absolutely overwhelming. It was overwhelming to the point that anytime I was trying to ask a question or voice out an opinion, my hands were shaking and sweaty. My heart was trying to escape from my chest. And my mind was terrified to the point that I had no control over what I was saying. My words just coming out of my mind, but I was not in control. It felt like I was on autopilot. At that point, I realized that my slides are not ready. At that point, I realized that if I want to move forward in my life, I must face my fear. Because what happened next, it's quite revealing. I was driving and I was listening to a self-help audio by a famous speaker. When I stopped on the red light, the speaker asked, "What would you do if you had no fear?" Oh, interesting. Nobody asked me that question before. What would I do? Oh, I would be a speaker. The fleeting thought came in my mind, but the fear made it vanish very quickly. I obviously wasn't ready for that thought yet. But since I was waiting for the light to turn green, I still had time to reflect. In my mind, I could see all the opportunities that I procrastinated with or avoided due to fear. I was too scared to accept that. At that point, I knew that my life was controlled not by me, but by fear. And I knew that either I get in control, or if not, I will regret a lot, because my fear will control my life and my decisions. Okay, so the slides are ready now. Fantastic. So at that point, I made a decision. In order to move forward, I need to face it, and I need to do something with my fear to overcome it. And there are a few lessons that I'm happy to share with you to help you, because the truth is, fear never really goes away. I didn't find a way to overcome it, because every time you have a little victory with fear. For example, you did the presentation you were scared about. There's always a bigger stage. There's always a bigger audience. There's always a more high-profile client or a bigger deal, and fear will come back again. So what can we do? We need to learn how to work with fear, to treat it as a friend, not as an enemy. So the truth number one with fear is actually, as Ash said, a story. We create the story in our mind, and the story I'm going to develop in a moment. And the second truth that I discovered, you are scared because you care. Okay, so actually when it comes to the story, we create the story ourselves by asking, what's the worst that can happen? And let that scenario play out in our mind. Let's take an example. You are preparing for an important presentation for a client. And as you are in the midst of preparation, your mind is asking you, what if they don't engage? What if they think that you are boring? What if they are not impressed? What if they ask you a difficult question and you have no answer, right? At that point, you have a choice. You can either enter in your mind and dwell on all these possibilities. But be aware, this is the kind of horror stories that your mind is trying to engage you with. What can you do? You can flip that story around and you can say, okay, Mike, that's fine. If this happens, then I will think about it later. But now, let's flip that question around. What's the best that could happen as a result of me delivering that important presentation? In this way, you are flipping around, focusing on a positive outcome. And as a result, you will be more motivated to continue with preparation, and you will also be more likely to succeed in real life, since you prepared, right? So fear is a story, and you are responsible for what kind of story you want to show yourself. Is it a horror story, or is it a happy ending story? So number two, actually the word scared has inside the word care, right? I discovered it quite late, but I was so happy when it kind of like connected with me. As I mentioned, I had a lot of fear during my beginning of my corporate career. And at one point I realized why I'm so scared. I do care about the outcome. I do care about the result. Why I'm so scared? And it hit me. Let's take another example. You are preparing for a job interview. And there's a job that you are kind of like not sure you really want to get, right? You go for a job interview, you're trying, you're kind of like trying so-so. You don't need to put your best foot forward. You just want to see how that job could be a good fit for you, right? But the chances are you won't be super terrified about that interview. And you won't be very stressed whether you get it or don't get it. Now, let's see. If you got the interview for the job, you know that you're ideal fit for the job and you really want to get it because this is your dream job. How will you feel before and during the interview? I can guarantee you, I will be shaking just before and during the interview. Probably my mind will go a little bit into the autopilot again. And the reason is, you really care about the outcome. And this makes you anxious, and this makes the fear to kind of play a bigger role in the whole scenario, right? So what can you do about it? You need to accept the fact that it is because you care. And focus on the outcome. Why do I care about the outcome? What it is that I'm trying to achieve here. If you focus on the outcome, you take attention away from fear and you put it into preparation. You put it into putting your best foot forward. And believe me, sometimes I still went during the job interview on autopilot and I got the job. So that's okay. But focus on the outcome. So these are two things about the truths. But now, during my journey with fear, I realized like all the best performers, all the people we admire, professional speakers, professional performers, professional athletes, they do have their own warm-up routines. Why? Because fear is so common. Fear is so universal. We all feel fear at different points in our life. So the warm-up routine will help you to prepare yourself for your best performance. And the best in every moment might be different. Sometimes you might be tired. Your best will be different than the next day when you are more relaxed and more rested. So I found out from all the books, from all the mentors, from all the people I was talking about, from great performance, that actually that there are 4 levels that you need to tackle your fear in order to warm up for your performance. And that's why we talk about 4 levels, and that's why we call it from fear to fire, because fire will tackle all 4 levels where you notice that fear is showing up. So let's get started with the level number 1. So level number 1 is emotion. Fear is emotion. It's very powerful. It can control you, but there's still a chance you can get in control of your fear. So number 1 is face your feelings. And I think Ash also mentioned, right? We need to label. What do I feel? What do I feel in that particular situation? There's a technique called name it to tame it. Basically, by giving it a name, labeling, you know already, yes, I'm scared, I'm terrified. Why? Because I really want the job, because I really want that outcome, because I want to do my best. So name it to tame it, face the emotion, and it's okay to feel scared or to feel disappointed or to feel angry. At times, it's absolutely okay. Facing it is much better than trying to suppress it. So number 1, face your feelings. And this, we tackle emotional level. Okay, number 2, it's the level of your thinking. You are thinking in your head, and you might be doing overthinking. You might be creating your horror scenarios, right? We talk about it. We create horror scenarios naturally. What's the worst that can happen? Our mind is actually trying to protect us. And by protecting us, our mind wants to predict everything that could possibly go wrong. But knowing that, we can also reverse the impact of it. We can say, what's the best that could happen? And we already tackled that, right? So asking what's the best that can happen, you imagine the victory in your mind, and you play to the point where it feels like, oh, I'm familiar with this. I'm okay with maybe doing a little misstep, but still getting the job or still doing the presentation the best I can. And this also increases the chances of succeeding in real life, because then you are less scared of whether it is a failure or whether it is a victory. But you have more chances for victory because you propped yourself, your mind positively. So you show the happy ending scenario. You probably noticed when you are scared, and I was telling you as well, I had the physical symptoms. My heart was pounding. My head was hijacked by the fear. My legs were kind of so stiff, I couldn't really move. It felt traumatizing, and it felt like I cannot really move. I will stay here forever. But what you can do on physical level, you can actually release the physical level through movement. You can go for a quick walk. You can go to a gym for moderate type of activity. You can swim. You can do your favorite activity in a way that it will release the physical symptoms of your fear. If you relax your body will think, okay, I'm actually safe. I'm all right. It's okay. If you are very tense, this sends the signal to your brain, something is wrong. I don't feel safe here. And that's why you are more scared. So releasing physical symptoms, even things as simple as doing little face massage and massaging your jaw can help just before you do your talk. Okay, so physical level is number 3, and then we have one more. And one more is actually very, very important to cover all possible sources of fear. So number 4 is about your spiritual. It's like your direction, your values. How does what you are planning to do relate to you being aligned with your values, your mission, your purpose in life? If you ask yourself, why do I do this? And you remind yourself about the purpose. This purpose, actually, it's so powerful that it will drive you. No matter the fear, no matter if you are exhausted, tired, it will drive you. So spiritual level is actually one of the most important because there are a lot of stories where we overcame the difficulty because someone asked, why does it matter to me? It is so important that it's worth me going through this pain, as Ash mentioned, or fear, or another unpleasant experience in order to get and achieve the goal that I'm aiming for. So this is on 4 levels. And here we have a little reminder as well. So putting it into practice. So how do I feel? And you name the emotion, right? The second level, what's the best that can happen? And you see in your head, you visualize the best case scenario. You will feel more positive and the fear will lessen. Number 3, any physical activity will do. I personally like walking because it's not too strenuous and it also connects me with nature. And this is absolutely relaxing and beautiful. And finally, remind yourself why you do this. As I mentioned, fear realistically never goes away. There's always a situation that you might see and feel fear coming back. If it's like more pressure during the presentation, during the interview, during work situations where you really need to perform at your best, fear might show up again. But I will leave you with my absolutely favorite quote about fear. Courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the judgment that something else is more important than your fear. So I want to leave you with a question. What is so important to you that you face your fear and walk through in order to achieve that purpose? What is so important to you that you are willing to face fear and walk through to achieve your purpose? Thank you. All right, over to you.
Thank you. That's amazing.
Thank you.
I just conquered my fear in during the duration of your talk.
All right.
I just managed to conquer my fear.
Fantastic. I'm very happy for you. And you also seem like you are doing really well with conferences.
Thank you very much. Thank you.